Okay, gentlemen, we are live.
Good evening. What's up? And welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMeo. I'm your host. I'm here with my co-host, my partner in all things law enforcement, the very handsome Bill Cannon.
What happened to your razor today, man? Is this a new thing? You're gonna just?
Yeah, I figure I'm gonna let it grow for a little bit.
You may scare away some of our audience. You know, they're used to the clean.
This is like the in-between stage.
Yeah, clean shaven Mark DeMeo, not the.
I'm gonna let one of them grow like this long, and then I'm gonna spray it, and I'm gonna dry clean it. Well, we have a phenomenal guest tonight, Bill. You want to do the introductions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed sometimes when I call some of the people we ask to come on this show, and they almost always say yes. And we have Dr. Stephen Wakschal tonight, who is a clinical psychologist, and he does a lot of work with the NYPD. And I know him as the suicide prevention doctor, and he's a hell of a lot more than that. But welcome to the show, Dr. Stephen Wakschal.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Close enough. It's Wakschal, but
Wakschal. Is that Russian or Polish? What is it?
I think it's Polish, Russian. Yeah, it's that whole side of the world.
You must hear a lot of Polish jokes then.
So you're in Staten Island?
I am in the westerly area, if you're familiar, the North Shore of Staten Island.
All right, you guys aren't getting any protesters there tonight?
Not so far.
Oh, God. They'll stay out of Staten Island if they know what's
they got to pay the toll, man.
That's right. It's a deterrent.
That's right.
Rioters don't like the toll, man. Somewhere Soros is like,
if you're gonna riot. It's not fun to be the rioter, you know.
Somewhere Soros is sitting there like, okay, for the hotel, yeah, we got it. We got $25 an hour. Wait, $20 for the
toll. We'll take a bus, so we only have to pay it once, you know.
Right.
It's coming out of your per diem. That's what they tell the rioters. You want to go to Staten Island? It's coming out of your per diem.
It's been pretty quiet out here. It has.
Well, that's good.
I have to say, yeah.
You know, Doc, one of the things I wanted to ask you, and all of us being retired members of this service, we're all very concerned with what's happening to the officers that are on the job right now. And I can't even imagine, I mean, just the stress of dealing what they've been dealing with. First COVID and working those crazy tours and being exposed to the virus.
Yeah. And
now every other day, some massive protest, and just the fact that people seem to hate cops these days. How do members of the service deal with this?
You know, it's not just a cliche, but my heart truly breaks for these guys. It does. I'm preaching to the choir when I tell you that cops do this job because they care. They really do want to make a difference. They really do want to protect the vulnerable, and it's like we went to sleep a few months ago, woke up, hit the light switch, and we ended up in batshit crazy world. Yeah. Where perp behavior is okay and cops are the bad guys. And just could not make sense of that. I think the one saving grace, but my practice now is probably about 90% law enforcement, private practice, retired and active. And the one thing I keep trying to remind them is, listen, even if there's 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 protesters, New York City has 8.5 million people. So you got to keep in mind that the majority of us are law abiding. The majority of us respect you. The majority of us care about you, and I keep trying to drive that home. But, when you pile on the anti-cop rhetoric, the pandemic, the limitations, department changes and policies and procedures, you get this sense of discontent. The cops are just, that I'm working with are just discontent. That's why in 2 months, we had over 1,000 retire in just 2 months,
How do you get to in contact with the cops, the active members of the service right now that you work with?
In terms of referrals?
Yeah, like how does that work?
There's a few channels. One is Employee Assistance Unit. they're constantly sending me referrals, because they know when it comes to true confidentiality, that's something that I pride myself on for the last 40 years. So I get a lot of employee assistance, and Staten Island is small. What do we have? 450,000 people. It's just a lot of word of mouth. One cop will say to another cop, "Hey, I spoke to Steve. He's okay. He's not going to tell you, lay down on the couch and for 20 years you saw something and now you screwed up over it. He's just gonna, he's gonna talk to you and try to fix and help whatever is going on." So a lot of word of mouth. We just had a shift in CEOs for the precincts, but prior to that shift, a lot of the CEOs were familiar with me as well. So they would chime in and tell someone, "Hey, why don't you go talk to Steve?" A lot of referrals through department surgeons and unions. That's been mostly it.
Who
Can
pays?
the department surgeons refer someone to you without going official through the department?
Yes.
They can. That's
Yes.
a new thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that's the cop's biggest nightmare, is to be
Right.
outed to the department, and then he gets rubber gunned. He
Right.
can't work overtime.
Yeah.
The stigma attached to it.
Right. And it's not that the person is at that, they're not a danger. It just may be somebody they're seeing for, a physical injury or whatever. And they're saying, "You know what, this really hurts and it's got me in a bad mood." Nothing major, but they'll say, "Why don't you go talk to Steve?"
Yeah.
Who pays for this?
Insurance.
Then when the cop comes to, or a police officer goes to see,
It was GHI. GHI got taken over by Emblem Health, and then Emblem Health carved out the mental health piece of it, the behavioral health, to Beacon Health Strategies. So Beacon Health Strategies covers.
So you
And
get paid enough that it's worth your while to take patients from the department. It's not that much, right?
it's not that much,
Yeah.
but you go into this knowing you're not going to become, a mega millionaire, but it's more for the mission. It's
And,
more for the mission.
police officers, they're not allowed to use antidepressants, are they?
They are. It really depends on the medicine, depends on who's prescribing it. But today's antidepressants, what the department gets concerned about is reaction time, medications that affect reaction time. Today's newer medicines don't affect reaction time. So, and those policies are changing in terms of medications. It's becoming much more, the department is much more on board with a cop taking medication.
Yeah, because
Along those lines, there are other medicines that obviously you can't take.
No, but
Or if you did, it would put you restricted.
If you talk to people, people out in the public that aren't in the law enforcement business, it seems like every third person is bipolar, tripolar, quadpolar, syncopolar. Everyone's got some kind
Absolutely.
of polar issue. So it would be reasonable. And I was trying to be funny.
I hear you.
It would be reasonable that 1 out of every 4 cops or 5 cops must be bipolar, right?
You tend, in this field, you tend to get a flavor of the month. A while ago, everybody had attention deficit.
Right.
They couldn't pay attention. They had to have attention deficit.
My wife
There's a lot of, go ahead.
My wife tells me I have that too.
There's a lot of things that look like attention deficit but aren't. But that was the label. Bipolar becomes a flavor of the month. It just happens. But I'm asked all the time, what am I seeing with the cops? Is it, mental illness from before they came on, or is it job related problems? And the issue is that the reality is that there are stress reactions. It could be PTSD, could be anxiety, could be some sadness that's job related. But I'm also seeing stuff that just wasn't picked up when they first came on that is pretty significant mental illness. So you get both. You definitely get both.
What? You mentioned that about when you come on. Maybe some civilians don't realize this, but prior to coming on the police department, at least the NYPD, you got to pass a written psychological exam.
Right.
And then you have to meet with a clinician. And I was thinking about this the other day, but we always joked around on the job about how so many people made it through that guy shouldn't have failed the psych,
Right.
But the truth is, when you look at us standing on that line, and you have some of these Gen Zs or millennials screaming at you right in your face, saying they hope your family dies and your kids get cancer and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's happening night after night. And these guys, I tell you, man, that test's got to work, because so far I haven't seen anybody just freaking lose it
Right.
and start letting rounds go and killing everybody that's in front of them. Because I always think, like, there's got to be one freaking person that's going to freaking lose it. They can't take it no more. And they're just going to start, they have a firearm on them.
A tremendous amount of restraint with somebody, this close to your face, screaming, and just amazing amount of restraint.
Yeah. I mean, that has to have long-term PTSD effect on you.
We're dealing with more than PTSD is we're dealing more with what's called moral injury. That's what we're finding, that the values of these cops, their morals, their ethics, their beliefs are assaulted. What they thought was right is no longer right. What they thought was nice is no longer nice. They tend to just question everything from spirituality to their own existence to feeling betrayed. And that's that moral injury. So it's not so much a PTSD from a specific incident. It's just an overall assault on their morals.
Because it seems like up is down and down is up and left is right and right is left. And things that we used to think 100% people will agree we were right, now they don't.
Yeah.
This whole Brianna shooting, I mean, they were shot at. How? And then people actually believe they should be charged with murder. I just cannot even wrap my hands around it. I just,
But before it even got to that point, there was a $12 million reward.
Right.
To the family.
Why did they pay her? For what reason was that?
Don't know.
It's like, it doesn't matter. Thank God for the law. Imagine there was no law. Everything was just done by mob mentality.
Yeah. You don't have to imagine that much anymore.
Well, the law still protects you, believe it or not.
Yeah, but you're getting to a point right now where you don't have to really use your imagination that much if you want to see lawlessness. It's going on all around the country. Like you said, what's up? It's down now. And if you're a cop on patrol, and you have to spend the majority of the time with people who are, or it appears to believe that way. Every once in a while, I'm sure they get somebody on the side, if they have to work in the cities, telling them, buy them a cup of coffee or say, we're on your side. But these days are long, and like you said, there might only be 100,000 people protesting, but it looks like everybody in the city's out
like
there.
Everybody, yeah,
against you.
Right. The interesting thing about moral injury is that it tends to form a little bit of a cohesiveness in terms of we're all in this together. It's not like one cop is ostracized and put to the side. It's the entire it's the department and mid-level bosses that really feel the same thing together. So that's
Is that bad?
Say it again.
Is that bad?
No, it's good. It's actually protective.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the us against them. I would imagine that a lot of the newer recruits, some of them come on with this idea that I'm going to change things and I'm going to be different than the cops that came before me. And I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And they might have won Cop of the Month, and they might have been making a huge difference in their command. And then all of a sudden, they have to go to one of these details, and somebody's hitting them in the head with a brick. They're cursing at him. They're calling him a piece of shit. And then you're like, yo, no, you don't understand. I'm not like these guys. I won Cop of the Month last month. Yeah. And then you do that for a couple of days, you realize this is all I got. It's us against them. Otherwise, I'm going to get killed out here. So that's where, no matter who you are, no matter what you come on before the job, after you go through these things, often enough, you're going to realize it's us against them.
Yeah. Doc, there's an expression on the police department. It's probably more true now than it ever has been. But it's always been an expression used to say, 1 million attaboys don't equal one shit. And I always love that expression because it's so true. You could be on top of the world one month and do something wrong the next month and go, that guy Cannon's a piece of shit, you know?
Right.
He made
And-
gun collars and 3 robberies last month. I don't give a shit. He sucks this month, you know?
And
Yeah.
something real interesting with the younger cops, we're raised in a generation of approval being performance related, that your value, your self-worth, everything is based on your performance. You know, it's like when I was a kid and they choose up sides, you know, to play in the schoolyard, punch ball or slap ball. I wasn't picked that often. You know why? I sucked. I was no
Yeah.
good. I could swim real well. I could play football. Certain other things I couldn't do.
Right.
I had to go home and deal with that. Okay, I suck. I got to come up with something else to do.
Right.
But not today. Not for the last, decade or so. You get your performance trophy. You get your third place, last place ribbon. So they've gotten to the point where they feel their worth is based on performance. And now they enter the police force. They're performing, but guess what? They're not getting the attaboy.
Right.
And in fact, they're getting the opposite.
Yeah, it's got to be.
So it really hits them very hard. Like, I'm doing my job. Why, so their self-worth gets assaulted as well.
And then I can imagine when you go back to your friends, because a lot of these young officers are the only police officer in their group, or maybe there's another one, but their friends do something else for a living.
That's right.
Now you're going back in that group, and at first you start getting the questions, and then you start getting the whys, and then you start realizing, well, maybe I can't hang out with these people anymore because it's not helping me at my confidence level, and it's my job, and I don't want to be put down or have to answer questions for everybody else. Especially you answer questions for people in your own department, but now you're being asked to answer questions for throughout the whole country, nationwide. What happened over here and what happened over there, and you don't know how they do their policing over there. How are you supposed to answer for that?
Yeah. So I mean, you raise a very good point, because that pull between, okay, you're my friends, we always get together, we do all this, and now I have to distance myself, or I'm uncomfortable in your presence. We see that a lot. And an offshoot of that, believe it or not, is officers of color. That's an emerging problem that I'm seeing in my practice, and all of my colleagues are bringing up, because what they have to do is they're enduring being called a traitor, Uncle Tom, all these really derogatory comments. And on the other side, they're hearing cops calling the protesters some really bad stuff. So they where years ago it was never an issue. The loyalty was to the badge. More and more it's become, wow, badge versus my generational obligations. And they're going through a lot of difficulty, not being able to say anything. We're seeing a lot of that.
Because you still got to go to work.
Right.
And you don't really have to go be with your friends. And when you go to work and these guys, you realize, it's a lot like watching Full Metal Jacket.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Bad Mother. Remember him?
Yeah.
You could tell he was a straight up racist, but that guy had the big gun and he had your back. Do you know what I'm saying? So when you were on a break, do you remember those scenes?
Yeah.
Where he was saying all these, using the N-word and all this other stuff, but you realize that guy's a good shot, know?
Right.
It's a weird situation for these guys to be in. I know it's a paramilitary organization, but these kids a lot of them would have never made it in the military. You know what I'm saying? So they're getting like really just like that real feel of being part of a unit or something like that. But now their lives are on the line, So it is full military. You go out tonight.
I'm sorry, Doc.
Yeah.
Well, some of the recommendations they have now, they always say more training, but the reality is the municipalities don't want to pay for more training.
Right.
And because also training costs money, and training takes the cop off the road. So when they say more training, they're full of shit.
Yeah.
They do not want to supply the training, and they don't want the cop off the road. And the other thing is that I hear all the time that sort of drives me crazy. Oh, he's a bad cop. No, he wasn't a bad cop, like the cop with the Brianna shooting.
Right.
he was fired immediately, and now he's indicted. Did that make him a bad cop, or was he put in a real bad situation?
Right. No, I agree. There was just to get back to what Mark was saying for a second, there was an incident not that long ago on Staten Island where one of our smaller precincts had a homicide, and CompStat that one homicide from zero shoots it, way up.
100%.
Yeah, and the CO, came in, spoke at roll call, and said, "Listen, we have to do X, Y, and Z now." And there was a cop at roll call, a young guy raised his hand during roll call, said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't agree with that."
Uh-huh.
That was a go talk to Steve referral.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
had him in my office, and very compassionately, I said to him, "This job is not for you. This real," and he did, he resigned because it wasn't for him,
Uh-huh.
but like you were
I used
saying,
to say that every day.
say it again.
I used to say that every day during roll call, but underneath my breath.
Under your breath, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't agree with that.
Right. I don't agree with that.
25
One of my detectives used to say, "Sarge, I'm not going to do it that way." And he was on overtime. I say, "Then go home. Just go home." Oh, I don't want to go home. I'm making 100 an hour. Then shut the fuck up.
You mentioned a couple of things about your sports, and I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now our generation, our parents, I coached my son's teams and stuff, and now they're suffering from the parents being so hard on them. A lot of these kids, and I'm trying to tell my son. I said, "Listen, I think you might have had it better, because when I was growing up, the parents never came to the game. But if you dropped the ball, you had all your best friends turn around at the same time and go, 'You suck! Holy shit!
That's right.
You fucking suck! What the hell's the matter with you, man?'"
That's
and like
right.
this was every day, 3 games a day, maybe more. And depending on if you sucked in all sports, you were gonna hear you suck all day, every day.
Yeah.
And
And look, how many games could mom and dad come to? Because they're both working full time. They're both working 6-7 days a week sometimes.
yeah.
It's different.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up was, Bill and I always talk about this on past shows about just this idea of maybe having every officer that goes to the academy be assigned a clinician. So just like you're assigned a district surgeon, you get assigned a clinician. And then this way you take away the stigmatism from it. You have to go maybe twice a year whenever you go to the range. It's part of your protocol. You check in, you say hi. Maybe it's a half-hour visit. And then if you need more, you can go accordingly, but nobody else knows about it. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think number one is the umbrella issue of confidentiality.
Mhm.
If that's not in place, I don't think anything works. So that has to be worked out to where it is confidential up to a point. Obviously, if there is, by law, there's certain things that cannot be confidential. And if that has to be broken, then you let them know ahead of time. But if you promise 100% confidentiality, you're already painting yourself into a corner. So you need informed consent. You need true confidentiality explained. The department's been wonderful with some of their new initiatives along those lines. There is one, but it's not in place yet, was to have a clinician assigned to each precinct so that they get to be known, almost like a fixture. Oh, there's Steve, I can go talk to him. I actually did that on my own with the 121 precinct here on Staten Island. Once every few weeks, I pick up 2 or 3 dozen bagels, some cream cheese, and I go in. I hang out, I bullshit with people, and people know me. So you form that relationship where they say, okay, this is not a guy who's going to sit and say, how does that make you feel? This is a guy you could just talk to about, you just had a fight with your wife or your partner or whatever. So I think getting the clinicians closer to the cops is absolutely what's needed.
Isn't it clear that there's going to be people outside the door though all day if you go sit in the precinct? I can just imagine a line of like for every minutia, like you just, or then you got the people that are just going to stop in there, the house mouse that's going to sit there and talk to you all day anyway.
Yeah, so you learn how to set limits with people. You learn, but one thing that's working incredibly well is employee assistance unit and the peer support, the department peer support, where they now have a peer support officer in the precinct, not any outside agency, or organization, but trained. I don't know if you know Shane Rogers, that group. They
Shane.
train
What'd you say?
Shane Rogers.
Yeah, I know Shane. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so he's training.
I work
You know,
with him.
he's training cops, and they're precinct based. And what's happening more and more, it's amazing. Those cops will talk to precinct based peers much quicker than they'll talk to any peer outside of the precinct, because hey, I know you. You know, I know you.
Trust them.
But that's a real good program, and I'm seeing, a lot of results with it.
Doc, I want to ask you something about part of staying mentally healthy is to do things for yourself, right? So they call it self-care.
Self-care, right?
And during these times of 12-hour tours, no days off, and all that type of stuff, it's really pretty damn hard to do things for yourself and even take care of your family. I remember during 9/11, they basically told there are no days off,
Right.
doing 12, 14-hour tours. And I remember I was in the 2-3 squad at the time. Steve Bonanno, God rest his soul, he was the CO at that time. And
Yeah.
people come into his office and they'd be like, I can't take this anymore. I can't go home. I got kids. He would just hand them a form and they'd look at it with discontinuance of service form. And they were like, I don't want to quit. He goes, then get the fuck out of my office. He goes, your country was just attacked. I don't want to hear about your personal problems.
Right.
Oh, they didn't expect that response from him because.
Yeah, I mean, we used to think of self-care as this warm fuzzy. Get a massage, get a bubble bath, go, wherever you got to go and get things done.
Mark gave me a loofah scrub.
Did he? Very nice. But we now know that self-care is life and death. That the research is real clear. When you don't practice self-care, your cortisol levels go through the roof, which attacks your kidneys, heart, pancreas, liver, blood pressure, metabolic syndrome, hypertension, diabetes, all these things related to lack of self-care. What's the problem is a couple of things. One, I've never met a retired cop, and I've never met an off-duty cop. So it's not like you could toggle it. Okay, I'm off duty now. I could do it. I'm comfortable. Everything is good. Or I'm retired. Everything that happened to me for the past 30 years is gone. That doesn't happen. The other thing is what's called the police officer's paradox, which is, again, we have 8.5 million people in the city. Having 35,000 control 8.5 million. They do it with a presence. They do it with an attitude, and they're able to maintain the control for the most part.
Right.
The problem is you can't turn that off at the end of your tour. So now you go home and maybe you get invited to a barbecue, so, this is like this. I'm not talking to these people. Or you're in a restaurant, your back's to the wall, your head's on a swivel. Or at a wedding, what do you do for a living? Really, you ever shoot anybody?
Yeah.
Can I hold your gun? Can I see?
I do. That's right. That's a joke that I have about. Whenever I go to a party, everybody wants to know you ever shoot anybody, and you gotta. If you say no, you become just the most boring person in the room.
Right. And if you did shoot him, did you just shoot the gun out of their hand or or in their leg?
And Bill knows all about throwing orders around when he tell the story about what your wife used to say to you when you came home from work.
What?
Well, how you used to boss around the house when you came home from work.
Oh yeah, she would tell me like, you're not the sergeant here at home,
Yeah.
And I would expect her to call me Sarge, But
Yeah.
It's sergeant to you.
Sergeant, Detective Sergeant to you.
But with the paradox, so now people say, oh, look at this guy. He's quiet. He's aloof. He thinks who he is. So it just reinforces that whole idea with it. There's no self-care. So, self-care is incredibly important. And I push it very hard.
I remember I asked you one time, Doc, and I asked you, is it okay to go out drinking? And I didn't know what kind of answer you'd give me because you're a doctor and you said, yeah, of course it is. As long as you don't do it 6 nights a week and get hammered every time. No, of course that's okay.
I'll never stand on a soapbox and say, don't you ever drink.
Yeah.
A glass of wine, a couple of beer, that's fine.
But you know, some doctor medical industry, if you go even for a checkup and they're like, how many glasses of wine do you have a night? If you say two, they're ready to enroll you in an Alcoholics
Right.
Anonymous program. I guess it's so ridiculous. Two
No,
glasses of wine.
Again, that's what's missing in most of this arena is common sense. Common sense seems to be absent in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
But with self-care, it's really engaging in mindless activity. Once you put a parameter, you know, like time, I'm gonna go to the gym for a half hour. That's not self-care. Self-care is I'm gonna go for the gym.
Right.
I'm gonna go for a walk for 20 minutes. No, I'm gonna go for a walk. That becomes more self-care. You know, finding a hobby, things that you love to do. My self-care is I go to white trash auctions in Pennsylvania. I'm one of the only people with teeth, you know, full set of teeth when I go. And I just enjoy it. I just have fun being there. It's mindless. It doesn't involve anything.
But that's interesting what you just said about don't put a time limit.
Right.
So you don't, okay, so if I'm going to the gym every day before work for my self-care, sometimes I got to rush it, you know, because I slept late or I had to take the kids somewhere. But how do you fix that solution?
I mean, look, under certain circumstances, it has to be time limited. It does. You know, you have to be somewhere at a certain time. So anything is better than nothing. You know, going to the gym, taking a walk during the day, just, 10 minutes just to do some mindful meditation, just to think about things. What I also tell people to do is, if they can, try to avoid that long vacation plan. Much better to plan individual, couple of days, a couple of nights away, so you have more frequent things to look forward to. You get on the computer, you start to Google some places that look nice. Puts you in a different mindset. Because you do that one long vacation, it's over. You feel like crap when you get back.
Yeah.
Doesn't really do it. It's a lot of work,
If you work with me. I tell people right before they go on vacation, I'm like, you realize this is the best part, right? As soon as you leave tonight, you're already on the way back.
That's right.
It's over. Your vacation's over. You might as well start planning out your next vacation. This one is over.
Absolutely. The other thing is, again, gallows humor, dark humor. It's one of the best coping skills there are. It's not meant for civilian ears, but it's something cops should never give up doing. Firefighters do it, doctors do it, nurses do it. Again, it's not meant for civilians to hear because it's, a little bit dark and maybe off color, but another important thing to do. It keeps cops from, it lets cops go from job to job to job without leaving their heart at that first DOA and having to go to the next one. So, that's actually part of self-care.
Is it important to have friends that are outside the police world? People that may be your friends outside of the job, but they're not cops.
I think it is. But again, the point you raised is you run the risk in today's world of people questioning you and, maybe starting to voice some anti-cop things that you never thought your friends would do. That's what I'm hearing a lot of.
Yeah, there's a lot of that postings.
Right.
I worked with somebody in the police academy in that training unit, as a matter of fact, that I was talking about. Yeah. And now you're seeing all this defund the police stuff.
Yeah.
They're partaking in it. And meanwhile, we just lost our jobs because we got defunded. Right. You're basically saying, goodbye to $500 for a day of work every week. You moron.
Right.
You fucking idiot. This is going to be over in about a month, a little bit more than a month. And then all of a sudden you're still going to be out of work.
Yeah.
And which brings up a funny point. You talk about all this training, but that was a unit that I worked in that we basically specialize in how to detect mental illness and how to not shoot people who are suffering from a mental illness. You learned about schizophrenia and dementia, bipolar.
Was that with Jimmy Shanahan?
Yeah. I was one of his actors.
I remember, yeah.
So we just got defunded. And the funny thing is like, Bill was talking about training. People mentioned more training. But a lot of people aren't mentioning training anymore because they just want to defund it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the training I do, my suicide training, two things. One is it's short because you're not going to get a department, like you said before, to give up guys for 2, 3, 4 days of training. It's silly,
Right.
you know. Also, I'm not a big fan of seminars, conferences, you know, because those to me generally seem to be just a venue for people to say, hey, look at me. Look what I've accomplished. Look what I've researched. Here, you know, it's stuff people already know. It's not, you know, anything that's going to change the guy sitting next to you in an RMP. So the training I came up with is short, 3 to 4 hours, and very different than any other training that's out there. So, you know.
So you were
How
saying
we
about,
doing-
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How are we doing? I know before all this other shit happened with the COVID and then the riots and everything.
Yeah.
I remember we were having a bad year as far
Yes.
as suicide. Has that continued or has that
2019, we had 10 reported suicides. We never know the true number because retirees aren't tracked. And we also, as good as our investigation skills are, you never know if that single occupant motor vehicle accident was intentional or not. Was that overdose? You know, the one that always gets me is a gun cleaning accident. You know, it's not that easy to shoot yourself when you're cleaning a gun.
No, that's a suicide.
Yeah, so you know.
How about your wife? That's pretty easy though, right?
What do you mean?
Well, you said when you're cleaning your gun out, not to commit suicide when you clean, but shooting your
Well,
wife.
it's if she's cleaning the gun. That's the. So we had 10, and across the country we had about 228 law enforcement suicides. This year, NYPD, 3 active suicides, and 125 across the country. Is it a true reduction? We don't know. It's too early to tell. Is it some anomaly with recording during the pandemic? You know, we just don't know enough yet. But I happen to be one who didn't jump on the bandwagon that says the suicides are going to skyrocket because of the pandemic and the riots and all that. I think, again, because of this moral injury, the fact that it's us against them, we will have a reduction in suicide. So we're already just a few months out to the end of the year, and you know, praying to God it stays this way.
Because they're working so hard. Maybe it's because they don't have this time to sit around and emote.
Not enough time, too much time with their thoughts. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're working every single day. They got to be back. If it's not a 12-hour tour, they can't take the day off. Vacation time is hard to get. You know, so when you're sitting at home with nothing to do in between shifts,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You got 3 straight days off with nothing but your thoughts.
Right. Yeah, about 20, the numbers vary. 20 to 40% of suicides are impulsive or revenge, you know, but the others are pretty well planned. You know,
Revenge, you mean what, against yourself? Revenge?
No, usually someone else.
So you're pissed off at somebody else, but you kill yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said I was when I was in homicide. We had a 15-year-old kid shoot himself in the stairwell of Taino Towers on the same floor that his girlfriend lived that just broke up with him. I was just like, oh
Yeah.
my God, dude, you were 15, man. You know, it was hard. You know, horrible. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a 19-year-old girl jump off the 6th floor of Manhattan School of Music. I remember.
Yeah.
And she left her phone on the deck where she was still having a conversation with her boyfriend. And you know, you talk about PTSD and all this stuff, man. That's one thing I never get that out of my head, man.
No.
I always remember her shoe. She landed on her feet, and her shoe popped. It was on the side there, and I remember like going to the hospital and just hearing the pain she was in, sedated, but just the steady noise of her like that. And eventually she passed. It took her, you know, a couple of days, but she lived for a long time, like 3 days after a 6th floor jump.
But the image it leaves you with is it's like a Blu-ray DVD. It's ingrained.
And her parents, talking to her parents, and they wouldn't believe it was a suicide, and they got a lawyer. questioning it. And, we had the phone call, we had a conversation with her boyfriend, proving that they were on the phone at the same time talking, and he was breaking up with her. They wouldn't have it at all. It wasn't part of their religion. They didn't believe in suicide. And those type of things, it sticks to you. You get more than a few of those having to deal with that. That's it's a lot to handle.
Absolutely.
The young ones,
Terrible.
And then the guys that you worked with that committed suicide.
Yeah, that's
the officers.
really horrible.
Yeah.
Doc, we want to also touch upon, since we are retired, and most of the people that we deal with, or some of you that watch the show, are retired.
Sure.
That's a big thing too, from the police department. That's the PTSD thing, and it's not talked about that much. Mark did 20 years. I did almost 27. And, we've seen. I was in homicide my last 10.
Yeah.
We've seen some horrendous shit.
Yeah.
And sometimes those images will just pass through your head, and it's unplanned.
Yeah.
I remember once I used to teach at a college, and I remember I was teaching, and it was a course in homicide, and I was talking about this case of this 13-year-old girl that was murdered, and all of a sudden I started weeping, and I couldn't stop, and I was just like, I was really embarrassed by it, because here's the tough homicide sergeant that's been to hundreds of murders, and it was totally something unplanned, but it just overcame me.
It overcame you.
And I was like, that's PTSD,
PTSD is something we earn. It's not a weakness in any way, shape, or form. It's something we earn. Look, I worked a pile for 1.5 years at Ground Zero. I got my PTSD.
Yeah.
I earned it. That's my Purple Heart. I saw it, like, as well as I do, things we saw, smelled, heard, we earned it. Yeah. So I never look at it as a defining characteristic. It's something that I earned. It's something that I have, something I'm able to manage. But the issue with PTSD is it's not really recognized within the department. That's the problem. The last I heard, if you return to work following a critical incident, shooting, RMP accident, the allotted time that you're allowed to have, if you return to work, then by definition, you don't have PTSD. You're not disabled from it. And look at your evaluations. Not only did you come back to work, you got little flaws. So how bad could it be? Not long ago, it's something I'm real proud of. I was able to get a detective 3/4 PTSD pension because he had the worst case of PTSD I ever saw. And I went to the Article 2. I testified at the Article 2 hearing. And the psychiatrist knew me because I had testified for, a few other cops. And he called me out of the room. And he said, listen, he's not going to get it. I said, how can he not get it? This is the worst case of PTSD I've ever seen. He said, he's not going to get it. And he told me why, exactly the reason I gave you. I said, all right, give me a few minutes. Let me think about it. And I went out in the hall. I was walking around, the beautiful left rack. I mean, this stunning building.
Gorgeous building.
Gorgeous. It's just amazing.
A lot of fun people work there.
So
I always love when you get the drug test. And I got one of the first ones they gave when they shaved your legs. When they started taking hair, I was like, what the fuck?
Well, just the waiting room.
Shave your legs. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Just the waiting room. I mean, I don't know if that was ever,
I don't know how you get past security down there either, man. That's a tough staff they got down there.
Yeah. So I said to the psychiatrist, you know what? I came back. I said, you know what? You're right. He doesn't have PTSD. He was fine. But what he's got is late onset PTSD. It just came out now. And the psychiatrist said, son of a bitch, that'll work. And he got his 3/4.
But they didn't want to give him that because that opens the floodgates.
That's it.
For psychological PTSD.
You identify the problem. Now you have to do something about it.
And also, too, how do you, then there's a mandate between when can a person come back after, okay? And then there's also, how many incidents have you been in? You definitely should have PTSD. And if you do, then you shouldn't be on the street anymore because you've had 4 incidents where somebody could be fine.
Right.
People handle things differently. We've had a couple of officers on the show here that have been involved in police shootings where the perp died. It's amazing to see, the difference between how people handle it, how people
Yeah.
talk about it, how they are now as a result of it.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, it doesn't bother them at all,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's referring to this one guy. I won't say his name, but
Yeah.
he had 2 years on the job, and he shot and killed the guy who just killed two people, and he got in a gunfight with the guy.
Wow.
And when the PBA delegate came to the precinct, he goes, "Who was just involved in the shooting?" The guy goes, "I was." And he says, "How come you're so cool?" And so he goes, "I don't know. It's who I am, But most people wouldn't be like that.
Different personality makeup,
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't be like that. I'd be pacing back and forth,
Well, I mean, that's also something that, civilians, I could tell you, don't understand that, shooting somebody is not, okay, let's go have a beer. I just shot some,
Right.
the toll it takes on the officer is enormous.
Right.
In most cases.
They think
Yeah,
in most cases. Out of the end of the barrel, and say, reholster.
Right. Yeah.
No,
there's different people handle it different, and also too, I would imagine it. How you feel in your own skin about doing it. If you felt like you did the right thing, if there was a question, or if people are doubting you right now, that also makes a big deal too. That makes a big difference if you're comfortable with it or not.
Absolutely.
So, Doc, with the department now, are we better now than we were 2 years ago?
I think so. I think some of the efforts are really heroic in terms of mental health, recognizing it, first of all, recognizing the needs, putting the resources in place. Look, I don't have inside information, but my guess is that the whole defunding movement, the whole pandemic, put the brakes on a lot of initiatives that were going forward. So I'm still hopeful those still will go forward. I am.
I wish we could defund some of these people that recommend defunding,
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I have a feeling like the defund the police is just a big scam to get the federal government to pay for your police, basically.
Right.
They see these state troopers driving around on the highway or sitting there. Wait, what are those guys doing? Why don't we just have those guys? They're here every day anyway.
Yeah.
We don't need so many cops. Put those guys. And a lot of smaller cities are doing that. And for example, the money that's going to come to rebuild New York, if it ever comes right now.
Yeah. You go upstate, a lot of small towns, the state trooper is it.
Yeah.
And he's also alone. He's sitting on the highway 3 o'clock in the morning.
That was their job up there.
Yeah.
But down here and cities all over the country, these big cities, they're looking to free up that budget money. They're trying to figure out ways to be resourceful with it. Yeah. And one of them is if like, for example, if they're going to give money to rebuild New York, they're going to give it. They're not going to give it so you waste it. It's going to come earmarked just for the police. That you got to hire a certain amount of police. That they have to be trained a certain amount of time. Yeah. So now what happened? The federal government just flipped the bill for your police department, or a quarter of it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we got a lot of toys after 9/11. Was the federal money? They got those harbor boats, those little things that had tremendous computers, and it was all federal money. It was all that terrorism money.
Yeah.
Then they were giving those same boats to Wyoming that didn't even have a river.
That didn't need it.
It's like if they're giving that money to New York, we want it too. But
there's always that.
The Me Too.
It's hard to avoid that. It's hard to avoid
it is.
The $600 that we were all, well, not me, but everybody else seemed to be getting along with their unemployment. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Most people were making more money to stay home than they were making at work. So now you're trying to get these people to come back to work, and they're like, "Oh, why? I'm making just as much to stay home, or more."
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering, when is it going to come to a point where they start rating jobs that come over the radio as far as the response? So just to continue
formally or informally.
Maybe formally, because it's gonna depend on how the outcome of the job. Like, for example, if you were going to go on a job and you saw that the rating of the job was escalating as you went along, then you'd also have to compare that to how important it is that we actually get this person.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So then you could call them off like a car chase in a way. Exactly like a car chase, but now we're talking about different things.
Right.
It's not a shooting, it's not a stabbing, maybe it's a sexual assault. Do you know what I'm saying? The guy's barricaded in his house. Well, do we really need to get him right now? Do you know what I'm saying?
Something along the lines of what they did with bail reform. They looked at it, they rated it and said, okay, for these crimes, you leave.
But that bail reform goes way too far, man.
Of course.
There's nobody staying really.
Yeah. But Mark, what you're talking about, they actually did that in another state. A guy actually was shooting at the police, and they were waiting on him for like 24, 40, and they just decided to leave. They left, and this guy had shot at them. I mean, I guess their philosophy was, oh, we'll get him on another day, but not for that,
Yeah.
But that's where it's coming to,
Well, you have to be able to pick how much of a danger that person is to, let's say,
to the community or to his family.
Yeah. So as opposed to
shoot at the police, you're basically willing to do anything.
Well, but you said, but what they would have to say was, well, he's just shooting at the police. He's not shooting at other people. So if you just get the police out of here, everything will be fine.
That's their reasoning. Yeah. That's their reasoning.
I don't know.
Doc, what would you tell, say you had a family member that wanted to come on the NYPD. What would you tell them right now?
I would want them to really fully have their eyes open, not have the unicorns and rainbow vision of what it's like. Oh, dad was a cop and my uncle was a cop and my grandfather, that they really know. And I think they should spend some time. I think they should really spend some time talking to other cops to get a sense. I also truly believe, and it's probably because I'm old as dirt and I've seen it happen, where the pendulum swings. Right now it's out here somewhere. It's in La La Land. I'm confident it's going to come back to normal. I just don't think it's going to be as quick as I would have liked it to, or as quick as it has in the past. But I would just want them to have realistic perspective of what's really involved.
Yeah.
You're a psychologist. Is it safe to say that anybody who would want to be a cop right now is insane?
No.
Like you should actually sit them down on the couch and get evaluated. Come on, sit down. Right. What happened? What went wrong? Why would you want to do this to yourself?
It's like the old expression you said that would come full circle. It's like the expression when they say the definition of a conservative is a liberal that just got mugged. It's how your ideas change. Once you become the victim of a crime.
That's right.
That's right. Like, oh shit! I didn't know that's what it was like.
That's right. And we see that. We see somebody getting pulled out of their car. Where's the cops? Call the cops. Why?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
You didn't want them here before.
No one else is coming, as they say.
Yeah.
I mean,
who else is coming?
Do you have a private practice on the side?
I do. That's what my private practice, like I said, is probably 80 to 90% law enforcement and their families.
So basically, you're doing the work for the police department for the parking plaque.
I don't get a plaque.
Get out of here! No way! You don't get a plaque.
No, I'm not affiliated. I'm not affiliated with the department in that way.
You could get a plaque. You used to be able to get a plaque.
We have people that call us,
and
want us to refer them to you. Can we do that?
Sure.
Okay.
As long as they're law enforcement, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. No, because sometimes we get people that actually they contact us and they say, "Oh, could you give us the number of that person you had on your show?" And I don't want you to be inundated with hundreds.
No, that's okay. That's fine. Not a plaque, but I'm just thinking I was offered a light package, and I said no because I'm too immature. There's no way I could control myself.
You'd be buffing out trying to get that pizza.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but if you got
if
you got the light package, you'd have to get a plaque. I'm not buying the no plaque. You guys get the good plaques too. You get the laminated ones, man.
The department surgeons, I am a state trooper surgeon. I got a plaque for that.
Oh, okay.
State
That
troopers.
works.
You see, no,
Upstate, it really works.
he doesn't need no measly NYPD plaque. He's got the state trooper one.
The important thing, Doc, is do you have the state-sanctioned Easy Pass so you don't have to pay that
No,
$20
no,
to get off to Staten Island? Actually,
no.
no one pays to go on Staten Island. It's free.
Right.
They want all the people to come on there as possible. It's to get the fuck off.
To get off, right?
$20.
If I had that easy pass, I would just keep going back and forth over the Staten Island Bridge. And that's how I would prove that I'm crazy, that I have PTSD.
Just driving back and forth
100 times over his tour. What's the matter with this guy?
One time I got in the wrong lane and it directed me,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to go on Staten Island. And if I went through the toll, it was $20, so I had to make one of those illegal turns. I took the risk. I didn't want to pay that $20, you know.
Sure.
And turn around and go back. Oh, forget about it.
Yeah, they got you there, man.
They got you. And then the other bridges too, the outer bridge or the Goethals or the Bayonne.
What percentage of males in Staten Island are named Tony? I was a joke.
Actually half.
Half.
The other half are named Anthony.
Anthony. And the girls are all Tina or
No, it's nice because we still have streets that don't have sidewalks. We still have backyards where you're allowed to have a horse, so it is still behind the rest of.
You can have a horse in your backyard?
Yeah, we're zoned. A lot of areas are zoned where you can have a horse.
Yeah, but
we have a huge. Sorry.
Who has a horse though? I mean, just because you have a horse doesn't mean you can have a horse. Doesn't mean you're going to have a horse.
Well, they do. They have a horse and they ride in Clove Lakes Park, or I'll take it out. But we have huge deer population. It's actually a problem.
Oh, Tony, got that thing? Because my horse, he's got something in the hoof. He's got the thing in the hoof.
I used to say that about highway cops too. There'd be like 6 of them talking in a circle at a detail, and I'd go, "Hey, Tony!" And then we'd turn around. Going to get some hate mail now. I love Italians. Please, I love
Me too.
Italians. My favorite food. Some of my best friends are Italian.
How long is a session? Like a regular session? Is it really 45 minutes or an hour?
Right now I'm doing video. I'm doing this. I just opened my office up 2 days a week for in person, but most people are preferring this, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
They'd rather do this. It's easier. They're in the kitchen having a cup of coffee. They're laying in bed, however they want. It's fine. So that I'm sticking with this for now. It's scheduled for 45 minutes, but at least 5 minutes of it is scheduling the next session, checking up how the last one. So between 35 and 40 minutes.
So you're not like an attorney who's doing billable hours.
No, I'm not hitting that chess clock every time you call. No.
That's pretty. There's no alarm clock that goes off?
No.
He hits the button like he's playing chess.
Right. That's what they do. I know lawyers who do that.
Yeah.
As soon as the phone rings, they hit it.
Oh, really? Is that what they do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One time, there was this real expensive lawyer. My wife works for a prominent guy, and this attorney who was charging him 900 something an hour
Well,
called her, and she had left a message on her office machine. "We will not be around this weekend or through these dates. Please don't call." So he called, and she ripped into him. I thought it was so great. She goes, "Which part of do not call don't you understand?" Because she could hear the clock ticking, and there's $900 an hour. She goes, "Don't even try to charge."
wow.
You were told not to call. I was like, "Oh, that was beautiful, man." I would have loved to see his arrogant face,
One thing with working with cops, if you're going to work with cops, you have to understand that they're going to miss appointments, and you can't take it personally. They get called for a detail, or they get, something happens. All right, I got paperwork to do. Go ahead. And in the 42 years I'm doing this, I've never turned my practice over and said, "I'm on vacation, talk to so-and-so." Every one of my cops know 24/7, call me. 24/7, I don't care if it's 3 a.m, call me.
You're a good man, Dr. Wakschal.
No, it's a way to give back. I wouldn't have anything I have if
Plus,
you guys didn't do what you did.
Have you ever been on vacation, like, or teeing off, and all of a sudden some crazy cop, off-duty cop, comes running up? Hey, Doc!
What was that movie?
Yeah. What was that movie?
Or Robert De Niro and
Yeah.
Well, that's one of them. But the other one is
What
when he goes
about
on
Bob? Was it-
vacation.
What about Bob? I think.
Yeah. What about Bob?
What
Yeah.
about Bob?
When he goes on vacation.
Yeah. No, you know something? What I find is that when most people know they can get you 24/7,
Uh-huh.
they don't bother. Just knowing that they can. You know,
Uh-huh.
just knowing that
Yeah.
they can.
Somebody gave me a card once at a party.
Yeah.
And, they knew I was a cop and I was a comedian. So, I'm looking at the card. So I was like, so you mean I could call you 24 hours a day? You should have seen this guy's eyes lit up. What? I was like, I'm only messing with you, man. I'm not going to call you. Don't worry about it. The card's going in the shredder as soon as I get out of here.
Yeah.
You've been a great guest, Doc. I just want to, anything else you could think of, Bill, that we need to know?
I'm glad to see that the whole sort of disposition of the department vis-a-vis mental health has changed.
Yeah.
And they're really, I believe, the department and also the unions and the line organizations, they're really serious about doing something about it, because suicide's a horrible, horrible thing, and it's never been more difficult to be a cop than it is.
That's right.
And I'm really so happy to know you, Dr. Wakschal, and
Thank you. No.
what a great man you are.
No.
Give your time and, of course, your skill to this, to this profession.
And just so you know, the suicide training that I do is available to any law enforcement member. No charge. I'll make a dime on it. My operating budget is zero. My donations, it's zero. It's just what we do. So just so you know, if anyone asks, that's available.
You mentioned
4-hour training.
You bring up the Zoom and how you've been doing a lot of it now, which brings up this question. I mean, I know your focus is on Staten Island because that's where you live, but now with Zoom, you could pretty much go anywhere in the NYPD.
I've been doing Brothers Before Others. Before the pandemic in Jersey, we were doing a lot of trainings for them, active and retired. But there's a little bit of a licensing issue. I'm licensed in Jersey, but you really need to be licensed where the person is. Like if you were in Kansas, I should be licensed in Kansas to deliver that service.
Right.
So I limited
to not help somebody like on vacation.
You could, under certain circumstances, you absolutely could.
Like if I'm on vacation and I'm annoying you, you could be like, listen, I'd like to help you out, but I'm not licensed.
I can't do it.
We want to get back to Staten Island.
Right.
I know exactly what you need, but I can't do it right now. It's against the law. My Hippocratic oath.
Right.
Well, what do you think, Bill?
Doc, I just want to thank you again for coming on the show. Yeah. You're an amazing man, and I feel a little more at ease that the NYPD has a guy like you that's helping to treat people in their mental health issues.
Thank you,
Doc. You got anything you want to plug?
No, just the training. It's called Conquer. CONQUER.
Capital CON, capital QUE,
capital R. Yeah. Connect, question, respond. It's to make the partner ready, willing, and able to step in when he sees something or she sees something with her partner.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Not that typical push of reach out, call me. Not are you okay? It's none of that. It's being ready, willing, and able to step in when you see something. And you'll do it because you're trained, you know what to do. Look, in 42 years, I've hospitalized 2 people. It's not about putting someone in the hospital.
What was it, with left hook or right?
Good timing, Mark. You know what, I wanted to ask one more question, Doc.
Yeah.
Are you all right now with having never been chosen in a punch ball game? Have you gotten over that?
No.
Never?
No.
So that's your personal PTSD.
That's it. I got to live with it.
Never chosen in a punch ball game.
I got to live. But there was one time where I was, and I hit it. It went over the fence, and everyone was like, and then they picked me again, and I couldn't do it. It was like a one shot.
You know what was the worst thing about all of that was always being the last one picked.
Yeah.
Like, for example, so we used to take the bat and you toss it up and then you would do that thing on top of the bat all the way till it gets to the top. So I'd be first pick. I'd go to Bill. and then you'd be the other coach and then you pick somebody else. And it was the same thing every day,
Right.
times a day with the same person getting picked last all the time, you know?
But we had to deal with it.
Yeah.
And we learned to look, the problem is people have a hard time sitting with discomfort. We learned to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know.
Today they want to get rid of discomfort either through alcohol, drugs, spending, eating, whatever. They can't be uncomfortable.
Comfort is the killer of ideas. It's a killer of strength. It's
Absolutely.
the killer of inhibition. Comfort. Once you're comfortable, everything dies. Everything happens. Your body works better.
Both of us are comics, and for every comic,
you
have to bomb. If you don't bomb, you'll never learn that you're not the greatest thing since sliced bread. You got it marked. You bombed before, right?
Oh yeah. Bombed in front of 2,000 people.
I had a chief of service in the hospital who called me into his office one day and said, "I just want to let you know you're going to fail." I was like, "No, not me." He goes, "Yeah, you're going to fail." And he was right. He just wanted to get me prepared. That's life.
Yes.
Yeah. Failure is a big part of it right now. And we go back to that thing about, if you're out there and you're on patrol and you're a fan of the show, and you're in Staten Island, or now that we're doing the Zoom, and you want to talk to somebody, don't forget to Conquer, and don't forget Dr. Stephen Wakschal, and look him up. And reach out to somebody. If you're working with somebody too, I always tell people, if you're working about somebody and they popped in your head and you worry about them, don't just think about them. Give them a call, send them a text, engage them. You can take them away from that moment. You can take them, they can think of something else briefly, because like you said, a lot of this is, spontaneity, idle hands, just sitting there thinking about the same shit over and over and over again,
Doc, I know this guy, Mark DeMeo.
You have insurance?
That's funny.
He's got lots of issues.
Who doesn't? I mean,
really?
just like the cops have to hear all the time about, what kind of, did you ever shoot anybody? As soon as you tell somebody that you're a psychologist, they all of a sudden they got to be like, "Oh, have I got stories for you?"
Yeah.
Or they're saying, "Are you analyzing me?" It's like, I never learned that. We never took analyze class. Crazy.
But the New Yorker, you can tell if somebody's bullshitting, right? This guy's bullshit, right? We got a good bullshit detector. Somebody starts talking 2 seconds later, this guy's full of shit. All right, Doc, man. Thank you.
All right, good night. Thank you again.
So much.
Thank you.
All the best to you. God bless you. And you're doing God's work there, man. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.